Welcome. In this lesson, we're going to learn about compound events and how to calculate the total number of outcomes. Because as we move into higher lessons, we're going to have to calculate probability, and probability is always the number of successful outcomes over the total outcomes. So we need to be able to calculate total outcomes if there's more than one thing happening. So we're going to flip a coin in this particular scenario, and then we're going to roll a die, and we want to know how many possible outcomes are for that two events combined, or that compound event. Well, if we think logically about it, the first event has two possible outcomes, either a heads or a tails. Once we flip the coin and get the heads, we can either get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or a 6 when we roll the die, or there's 6 possible outcomes on the die. But we could have rolled a tails and then again got one of the 6 possible outcomes. So to calculate the total outcomes of a compound event, we take the number of possible outcomes of the first event, which was 2, and we multiply it by the number of possible outcomes of the second event, which is 6. 2 times 6 is 12. And so there would be 12 total possible compound event or combination of those two. And it wouldn't matter which you did first either. So, well, this one, it's both are 2. But again, it's very simple. We're flipping a coin and then we're spinning a spinner again. The coin has 2 possible outcomes. The spinner has 2 possible outcomes. 2 times 2 is 4 possible outcomes. Now, I want to emphasize it won't always be this easy as we progress forward, because sometimes they tell us to do something like this. We're not just spinning rolling the dice and spinning the spinner. Okay, we're going to roll a die, we're going to spin the spinner, but now what are we actually finding? We're finding the sum, so be very careful. So the way I like to think about this is, if we roll a 1 on the dice, we can either add in a 4, a 5, or a 6, which if we sum those, because we're talking sum, we're not talking just the event in the sense of the two combinations. I could get a 5, 1 plus 4 is 5, 1 plus 5 is a 6, and a 1 plus 6 is a 7. I could get a 5, 6, or a 7 if I rolled a 1 on the die. If I rolled a 2 on the die, well, again, my outcomes for the sum, because again, on the spinner, I can only roll a 4, a 5, or a 6, right? But what's 2 plus 4? It's 6, which we already had up here. We don't want to double count the 6. What's 2 plus 5? It's 7. And again, we don't want to double count the 7. What's 2 plus, there isn't 6. 2 plus 6, there's an 8, right? We're only stopping at the 3. Now, 8's a new number. So again, what we don't want to do is repetition. So in order to calculate this one, what I do is I take the very smallest number on the first event on the die, which is a 1. I take the very smallest number on the second event, which is a 4, and I add those two together, and I get the smallest number I could roll is 5. Then I take the largest number. I'm going to jump all the way up to 6, the largest number on the die, and the largest number on the spinner, which again is a 6, and I'm going to add those two together and get 12. So the very largest number or sum I could get is 12, and I can get everything in between. I'll get a lot of the ones in between multiple times, but I don't care about the multiple times. I'm just wondering what the sum is. The sum of 5 is the same, whether it's 1 and 4, let's do the sum of 7. It's the same whether I add 1 and 6, whether I add 2 and 5, or whether I add 3 and 4. So now that I know what the largest number is and the smallest, I just have to find out how many numbers there are. Well, what's 12 minus, and now you might not understand why I'm minusing 4 and not 5, but what's 12 minus 4? Well, 12 minus 4 is 8 numbers. There's 8 numbers. Now let me explain why I'm minus 4. I'm including 5 in my numbers. I want to, if you need to, count up. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 8 numbers between 5 and 12. So I want to conclude that there's 8 possible sums. There isn't, now again, I repeat, there isn't 6 times 3. 18, because a lot of those sums repeat. And if the smallest number I can use is 5, I want to include 5. So don't minus 5. I want to minus all the numbers below 5. And what numbers are below 5? 4 and below. That's why I minused 4. Again, do it a couple times and you'll be able to understand that concept. And I really think that's as hard as it's going to get. Again, we're rolling a die and spinning a spinner. How many possible outcomes? Since it's not asking for sum, I'm literally just going to do 6 times 3. 6 possible outcomes on the first, 3 on the second, total of 18 possible outcomes. And we don't worry about repetition because we're not talking about sums. Here, you pick a card and flip a coin. There's apparently 8 cards to pick from. So that's the number of first events. There's apparently 2 heads or tails on the second. 8 times 2 is 16. And that's what I type in, 16. Let's get one more. Here's the sum. We want to find the sum. Luckily, they're always going to make it fairly simple. They're going to use consecutive integers. If they didn't, it would be a lot harder to calculate this. But since I'm talking sum, I'm going to find what's the smallest number I can pick from my first event, 1. What's the smallest number I can pick for my second event? A 2. So what's 1 plus 2? Well, that's 3. So the very smallest number I can pick is 3. Now let's find, or sum, the very smallest sum I can get is 3. Now let's find the largest sum. So the largest sum would be the largest number I could pick from my first event added to the largest number for my second event, which is 3. 6 plus 3 is 9. That's the largest number, and I can get everything in between. So how many numbers are from 3 to 9? If you need to go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, count them like that. That's fine. There's 7 numbers. Or remember, it would be 9 minus 2. It's always the largest number minus 1 less than the smallest number because you want to include 3. If you minus 3, you're not including 3, but 3 is one of the numbers we can get. We get a sum of, or a difference of 7, or there's 7 numbers, sums that we can get. If you have any questions on this, please do bring them to class, and I will help you with anything that you need.